5 years ago, French brand Citroen came to India and it assured us that it will launch one new car every year for the Indian market. Started with the C5 Aircross, followed it up by the Made in India C3 hatchback, the EC3 electric version of it, and last year we saw the C3 Aircross SUV. Now based on the same CQ platform, now we have the fourth model, but it junks the C3 name. Welcome to Car and Bike. My name is Girish Karkera and this is the all-new Citroen Basalt. Although a Basalt is based on the C3 Aircross SUV, proportions-wise there are minor differences. It is 4352 mm long and the wheelbase is 2651 mm, which means it is longer than a C3 Aircross SUV. The wheelbase is shorter. The other major difference are the wheels. This, even in the top spec, will come only with 16-inch wheels, and because of that, the ground clearance is also lesser at 180 mm compared to 200 plus for its SUV version. Now, to be frank, Citroen has come under some criticism in India for the kind of plastic quality they've used in the interiors or the lack of features in their models. But one thing that you can't fault them on is the overall design of the car, which has been largely loved. And the Basalt sort of carries on from there. If you look at this design as well, the proportions are spot on. It has a lot of presence on the road. The front has the typical Citroen double chevron logo, the slits of the grille. There is a large air intake. The bumper, it looks very aggressive. And new LED headlamps, projector kind, with the DRLs on top. Interestingly, this has also been carried over to the C3 Aircross SUV with the model year change that will come out very soon. If you come to the side, you realize the slippery silhouette of this car. Now, they haven't mentioned the figure, but the coefficient of drag for SUV coupe will be closer to a sedan than the SUV version of the C3 Aircross. The roof slopes pretty chunkily with the C-pillar, and they've tried to break up the monotony with these elements on the C-pillar. You can see something similar on the front door as well. They've tried to break up the monotony with these cladding, which looks nice on an SUV. From the rear too, the Basalt look equally smart. The way they've done the twin chevron logo like at the front, wrap-around tail lamps, and the way the hatch drapes itself around at the rear. By the way, this hides a very big boot. This is almost 470 liters. And one thing you also notice through the alloy wheels is that the front gets disc brake while the rear sticks to drum, which we think is a little regressive for a car that could have been a bit more aspirational. So let's look how the interiors of the Citroen Basalt is. First things is you get the sense of space, which is good. It's a 5-seater. It doesn't come with a 3-row option like the C3 Aircross SUV. At the front, if you see, it has a fresh new dashboard. This is dual tone. There is also another color option with the interior of the car. The front is dominated by quirky design. You can see the air vents, which are very typical Citroen sort of C design in them. There is a large touchscreen, not very big, but the system has a new interface than what it had before. A new thing in this car is the instrument cluster, which is a new TFT color display. To be frank, in the car this size, they probably look a little small, but I think they can pass that. Still doesn't feel out of place. It looks reasonably classy. The plastics used are actually quite good. The fit and finish isn't too bad. They've done a good mix of different textures, colors, and a piano black finish. Unlike the earlier C3 Aircross, this gets automatic climate control. The buttons have a nice tactile feel to it. There is a USB port for charging. There is a cigarette lighter, but there are around 70 plus accessories that you can take with the Basalt, and this is one of them, which has a USB plus Type-C. There is a tray, there is a wireless charging pad, there is a wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay with this system. 2 cup holders, glove box. Handbrake is manual. Steering can be adjusted for height, but not for reach, which is okay, I think. There are 2 conventional stalks on the steering column. On the left, we have the wipers. On the right, we have the headlamps. But there are no auto headlamps or auto wiper, which I think is a miss for a car which is supposed to be a bit more aspirational. No front ventilated seats either. The seats are big, they are well cushioned, especially in the front, and they've given it a neat 2-texture cover, which is fabric plus faux leather. Enough legroom at the front for both the driver as well as the co-passenger, as well as headroom. A very simple roof light here, no sunroof, which is a conscious decision that they took to keep costs in check. So the Basalt is only a 5-seater. Now, since unlike the C3 Aircross, since there is no third row seats, the second row gets a lot of legroom. 980 millimeters is what the spec sheet says. If you look at the headroom, I am around 5 feet 8 and I don't have a headroom problem, although someone taller might have an issue. There is reasonable space for 3 people here, although the center tunnel is a little protruding, and this AC sort of protrudes out in between the center passenger's legs. A good thing is that 6 airbags are going to be standard in the car. Also good thing is that 3-point seat belts for all the 3 rear passengers, although only 2 headrests. Now the seats are rather unique, it's different. One of the things that they've done is you get an adjustable support. It's supposed to be a 3-step thing, so passenger can accordingly adjust it. And this should be better on long drives. Center armrest is also there if there are only 2 passengers with 2 cup holders. You cannot recline the rear backrest, but neither is there a 60-40 split. So the entire seat will have to be pushed down if you need more space. You cannot just adjust one seat and get along with 3 passengers and some extra luggage. AC vents at the rear, but there are no fan speed controls. You get 2 USB charging ports, seat pockets for the convenience of rear passengers. Is there something that I don't like? And this don't come with weight sensing seat belts. So what happens is you have to sort of lock this in before leaving, and if you don't want to trigger the alarm. Also 3 seats, but only 2 headrests, but a rather unique one. If you can see, it has a very angled cushioning, which is good for support when you're traveling long distances, or if the driver feels a little bit too excited while driving and goes around curves a little too hard. What we are reviewing here is the top petrol variant. This 3-cylinder unit makes around 109 brake horsepower of peak power. Peak torque depends on the transmission you choose. With a 6-speed manual, it will make 190 Newton meters, while the 6-speed automatic churns 15 Newton meters more. So button start-stop is something you really miss in any modern car nowadays. This comes with a conventional key with a twist ignition. Now from standstill, the Basalt feels pretty smooth. This, as you know, is a 3-cylinder unit, so it's not the most refined, but vibrations are well in control. The steering is light, it is small, and body roll is at its minimal. There is one thing that Citroen is really good at, is tuning the suspension. And the suspension on the Basalt has to be one of the best in this price segment. So along with the engine option, there are 3 gearbox options. This, what we are driving, is the 6-speed torque converter automatic. From standstill, the Basalt is not a very heavy car, so it's able to smoothly build speed. The problem area is when you're trying to coast at slower speeds, it's as if the gearbox is too fidgety and cannot decide whether it needs to stay in that cog or it needs to change. But at very low or very high speeds, it's pretty smooth and pretty subtle. So body roll is at its minimal, partly helped with the suspension tuning. This has a slightly different suspension tune-up than the C3 Aircross SUV, mainly because of the weight distribution, which is different on the front and rear axle. Citroen claims the fuel efficiency of the Basalt can be as high as 19.5 kilometers to the liter with the manual gearbox and this higher turbo petrol engine. And with the automatic, it should be around 18.7, with the naturally aspirated returning around 18 with the 5-speed manual box. We reckon the actual figure to be around 13 to 14 kilometers to the liter. SUV coupes was once operating only in the luxury and ultra premium segment, but now we are going to see a slew of them in the mass segment. A car that can handle both the twisty roads as well as bad roads equally well. And on that front, the Basalt does really well. Now the Basalt's interiors are reasonably modern, but it misses out on some of the creature comforts such as button start-stop, automatic headlamps, wipers, or even cruise control functions. But the trump card for Citroen would be the pricing of the Basalt, which we expect to be as low as Rs 8 lakh onwards ex-showroom, which means that even in this top spec, a Citroen Basalt could be under 15 lakhs on road, and that is a great value proposition. While we would have loved Citroen to go all out with the Basalt, I think at this price, it is just too attractive to be ignored. It is a rather unique value proposition unless if someone matches it. Do let us know what you think in the comments, and if you like this video, do like and share it. And if you've not subscribed to the Car and Bike channel, do so.